Welcome to Grit for Life podcast. I'm your host, Nate Parks, and this is Grit for Life. We've been taking a look over the last few episodes on the acronym S.T.O.P. And if you've been paying attention, then you know that this is also part of our 4-week online mind, body, and soul workshop. But you don't have to be a part of that workshop to actually listen and hopefully get some great life lessons, some motivation, and some tools that can help you take charge of your time. Before we get into all that, first of all, I want to say if you haven't checked us out on Facebook, look us up, GRIT, and it's an acronym, so capital G, capital R, capital I, capital T, Grit for Life, and join us on there. We do a lot of motivational things on there. It keeps you up to date on what's going on, and as always, we like to sponsor and promote different things that different individuals are out there doing, especially those who are military or prior military. So check out www.phaseline Alpha, and that's PHASE for Phaseline Alpha. This is a clothing company that is being run and being set up and stood up by a military brother. And I challenge you to take a look, bookmark it, so you can go back as they are starting to build and put more things in there. www.phaselinealpha.com. So we've been looking at the acronym STOP. Searching your soul, that's the S. T, taking charge. O, observing. And P, pushing or preparing to push forward. And in episode 16, or actually I think it was 17 of this podcast, we took a look at soul searching and the importance of it. And it really is important. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, please do so. But today we're going to look at the T, which stands for Today Take Charge, or Take Charge. Now, as we continue to look at the acronym STOP, I want to focus on this aspect of taking charge of your life, your dreams, your destiny. In the Grit Podcast, episode 15, I talked about not allowing time to control you. We actually looked at what time was. It might have even been episode 14. And you must take charge. Now, I hear it over in my motivational work that people want to take charge, and many think, honestly, they are in charge. So I ask you, take a moment. Ask yourself, am I really in charge of my life? Or, am I just existing? Am I just floating through it? Am I allowing the waves of my life and society and everyday living and my job and my relationships just to bash me back and forth, and I'm not really in charge of this ship? What do you need to do in order to get in charge of this ship? Or maybe you say, yeah, you know what? I am in charge, or I'm not in charge, but that's because maybe you've chosen not to soul search, which was in the last episode we talked about in episode 17. Then there also are a handful that do have charge of their life, and they're the ones that so many times we sit back and wonder, how do they do that? You ever seen those people? You ever seen those people that seem really successful around you? Maybe it's maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's someone you don't even know, you just kind of look up to. And you're taking a look and you go, how do they do it? What do they have special? We talked a few episodes back how they don't really have anything special that you don't have. It's how they use the tools that they are given. And that's what we try to do here in Getting Ready and Training for Life. In our podcast, in our Facebook, in our live events, we try to give you the tools. You see, I can't make you successful. I can't. What I can do is offer you different advice, different things I've learned, different ways of looking at life, but they're tools. You have to take the tools yourself and apply them. And then you become responsible for your success or your mistakes. And that's okay either way, but you have to take charge. Once we've identified the key areas by soul searching, which we talked about, which is the S in the acronym STOP, then it's time to take charge and start changing. Now, how do we do this? Now, I ask you to stay up. Just get ready for this ride, because we're going to try to go through it quick, because I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and I really don't want to make this podcast so long that after a while you just don't want to listen to it. So, many things we've talked about with grit, that there are several roads. So there are many ways to take charge. And there are many articles out there that you can search. Just Google how to take charge of my life, how to take charge of my time. So I don't profess to know it all. And I don't say that the tools I'm going to give you are the only tools. You can get different types of wrenches. Different companies make them. Different companies make different cars. Doesn't mean that one's better than the other. They both will get you to point A to point B. It's just how you're going to get there. How's the ride going to be? Which one is better for you? And so I hope I want to give you 10 ways that I think will help you take charge of your life. So write them down. Pause this. Put this on pause. Get your journal. Get your notebook. Get something to write in. Write these down and see if they can apply to you. See if these tools fit in your hand, so to speak, and see if you can use them. So let's jump in right away. Number 1, identify. This actually comes with soul searching, which we talked about. And so if you've listened to our episode, in the last episode, you should already be on the way to doing this. Guess what? To move forward without doing the step means you're just launching into open water with no guidance, and you will become lost. And we talked about that. Once you've identified what you need to work on, then you can actually start. So great news. If you have listened to our soul searching podcast and you already did some soul searching and already understand the importance of it, you are already on your way to identifying and taking charge of your life. Another thing we talked about, I'm going to bring it up again. You're probably going to hear it several more times throughout the next few podcasts. You have to be honest with yourself. You must be. This is the slamming on the brakes for many people. I work with people on a daily basis that refuse to be honest with themselves. I can spend hours with them and I can see points that they need to identify. But do you think I can get them to steer in that direction? No. Many times, no. If I identify the areas in their life, then it's no longer them being honest or taking responsibility. You see, if I identify a problem and I point it out to someone and they go, oh, yeah, but then later on they quit working on that area, then they can blame me. And it's not my fault that they're not successful. I gave them the tools. They can point at me and say, well, I didn't think this was an issue, but Nate said it was, and so now it's not working out, and I'm not willing to really work in this area, so I'm just going to give up, and I'm going to point my finger at Grit for Life. No. If you are honest in identifying, then you take the responsibility, and in taking the responsibility, you're taking charge. I say all the time, your response, your responsibility, not mine. Your success and your setbacks are on you. In that, you actually gain control of both. Third, I want you to research and plan. This is important, time management. With the technology that we have today, we can have almost anything at our fingertips in a moment. You can type in just about anything into a search engine and voila, there's your answer. We will research everything, but yet then complain that we don't have the tools to take charge, to change. And we become on this perpetual merry-go-round of searching. So I want you to ask yourself, I want you to look at your time management. You say, now how do I do that? Here's what I would suggest. Journal a day, maybe a few days, maybe a week of your time. I want you to account for everything. You can get a Microsoft calendar. You can even go out and buy a calendar if you want. You can get a Google that has hours. Set it up for each day. When I was a recruiter, that's what I used to use. Every single one of my days had hour by hour by hour. So I could document and keep track of my time. Time management is important. And researching and planning how you're going to do this. But many times people say, I don't have time. I'm going to tell you, I'm a published author. And I have people who are very close to me who says, I don't have time. I really want to read your book, but I don't have time. Let me give you a brief account of my day. So on an average, I am working 18 to 20 hours a day. In that time, I am writing a book. I am currently editing another book. I am reading a couple of books. I listen to at least 1 to 2 podcasts a day. I plan for this podcast. I do live events. I am a father. I am a husband. Let me tell you, if anybody doesn't have time, it's me. How can I do all this? How can I put all this into a day and still sleep? And so I've learned the importance of time management. I try my best not to waste time. And researching and planning and focusing on how do I make the next step towards success? How do I make the next step toward taking charge? So I want you to do this. Account for it all, and I promise you, you will find you have plenty of time. And when I say account for it all, if you sit and spend an hour playing a game on your phone, then you need to write that down in the journal, your time journal. Spend an hour playing Candy Crush on my phone. Because then what will happen is later on you can go back and you can identify the areas that you're not being productive toward your taking charge of your life or success. And you can start working on that. That gives you, again, tools that identifies you're being honest and you've researched and planned and set up time management. Successful people journal and calendar. If doing this, you're no longer allowing time to control you. You are taking charge of it. Number 4, I want you to make yourself a priority. Now, I know you're saying, if you know anything about me and grit, you're saying, Nate, you say all the time we need to be looking outward and doing things for others. And that's true. But you can't give what you don't have. It goes back to an analogy of that you are a pitcher and you're pouring into a whole bunch of other pitchers. But if you do not have a pitcher or something pouring into you, then before you know it, you become empty and you have nothing more to give. So how do you make sure you're taking charge of this and taking charge of your time? By making sure you're taking time out and making yourself a priority. Even I, as a motivator, it is necessary and it is a necessity that I continually make myself a priority. I listen to motivational stuff. I read books on motivation and success all the time. One of the things I've learned also is to say no. There are times I have to say no, and I have to learn to heal myself. This is something I want you to think about. Ask yourself, am I giving more out than I'm giving myself? I'm not asking you to be selfish. I'm asking you to be self-aware. Once you've made this a habit, then it will happen naturally. I know when I'm becoming depleted. I understand, I can feel it, and I know, okay, I can't motivate people just this minute. I have to take time out for myself. Once this is a habit, then you're able to once again pour into others because you will have a continual source or sources that you will find to pour into yourself. You must take charge of yourself. That's what this is about. Then balance. Number 5 is balance. When you combine time management and making yourself a priority, you'll begin to understand and find the balance that your soul so longs for. And balance is one of the top keys to success. If your life, your actions, your impulses are not balanced with your goals and dreams, then I promise you, you'll go in circles. You see, I want you to think about it. Take a model boat. Put a weight on one side of that boat. Turn the engine on, put it in the water, and let it go. What are you going to see? You're going to see a boat going in circles. Now see, the boat is a picture of you. And the weight that is lopsided on that boat is all that you are allowing to be unbalanced in your life. But then you get mad because you keep going in circles, but you're not taking the steps to balance out the weight, to bring yourself buoyant, bring yourself back upright, to make it where you can steer properly. Do not compare. That's number 6. I recently was talking with an individual and I shared with them, everyone's story is their story. Everyone's experience is their experience. And everyone's journey is different. So I'm going to ask you, what is yours? What's your experience? What's your story? Daily, you're inundated with a superficial society where Instagram stars rent planes to take pictures besides, to make it look as if their life is this Hollywood life instead of a life outside on the other side of the train tracks. Reality TV and the worship of sports stars and debutantes have created a world of comparison. I grew up in a religion that I would attend church several times a week. I would see family after family that seemed to be picture perfect. The thing about it, though, is as I grew older, I would become ashamed of my life because it wasn't that picturesque vision of theirs. But then something changed. What changed? I changed. My perspective changed. My balance changed. My control changed. I realize that people live a secret life and society is like a masquerade. Everyone's walking around with a mask. If we compare our real self to someone else's false self, we will come out feeling ashamed and desolate every time. You are your own story. You are your own experience. No one, and I mean literally no one, has your talents, your tools, your wisdom, your experience, or your journey. So do not compare yourself to somebody else. Be unique. Be you. Take charge of you. By comparing, we are allowing someone else's life to control us, to take charge of us. No, you do it because you do you the best. Why? Because you are the best you. Number 7, in learning to take charge of our life, out of the 10 points I want to bring up, is simplify. This is sometimes hard for people, especially in a world that is focused on things and stuff and get it right now. But you need to do it, and you need to do it now. Look around in your life. Look at the people you spend time with, maybe the places you go, even the stuff you own. Do you need it? What can you get rid of? What can you cut back? Too many people are going to jobs they hate to make money that does not reflect their value. Now listen to that. Too many people are going to jobs they hate to make money that does not reflect their personal value, to pay for things that they cannot afford in an attempt to fill a hole that is never filled. I've not owned a credit card in years. I know people who spend money that they don't have for things they don't need. They become tied to things. They wake up one day in a house that they don't need and can't afford, with a car outside that they are upside down on, and a life that they hate. Does that sound like you? Maybe someone you know? Why is that? Simply because they don't simplify. My wife and I live a very simple life, and every day we're looking to simplify it even more. When you can learn the value of simplifying your life, you will see that it is easier to take charge of smaller and simpler things than it is larger and more complex things. It gives you energy for the things that are more important than that car that's sitting out there, or the house that doesn't seem to ever be clean, or a computer game that you may not really need. Clean up your life. Go through your stuff and ask yourself, when was the last time I used this? If it's been a year or more, get rid of it. Clutter kills success. I'm going to say this again. Simplify your life in order to take charge, because clutter kills success. We've got 3 more. Bear with me here. Number 8, small steps. Change that happens overnight is not grown into. No, it comes as a shock. Now, sometimes that's good, but usually it's a kill hit. If you try to change something instantly, right away, without understanding the reason and the necessity and how you're going to be affected by it, many times this is a blow that will take us down further than we were already and make us want to give up. But if you can remind yourself that success and change comes in small steps, and you're able to find strength in the small and simple victories, these will soon add up to bigger things. But never forget that small steps are still steps. So many people say, well, I just feel like I'm just taking these small steps. I'm not getting anywhere. You're still making steps. It's better than standing still. It's better than going backwards. I want you to think about it. You didn't come out of your mother's womb. You weren't born in a full sprint. No, you learned slowly how to walk. Also remember, you are you, and each person's steps will look different. That goes back to number 7, not comparing yourself. Number 9, accountability. All right, I've given you these tools. We've built Grit for Life. It's time for you to build your team. You see, I have individuals close to me who know my goals, my dreams, and my passion. They also know me, and sometimes they know me better than I know myself. And I have given certain people in my life who I trust. One is my wife. One is my father. Some are some military buddies of mine. I have given certain people in my life who I trust and have comparable goals and visions the authority to get in my face and correct me when I have started veering off my path. This is accountability, and accountability is vital. Your life is yours, but no one person can become successful on their own. Now I'm going to give you a warning on this. Be careful who you use as mentors and accountability partners. Choose people who you trust to maintain that accountability and who you are pretty sure that they will be honest and keep open communication. Now, at the same time, you have to be willing. If my father comes to me or my wife comes to me and says, you need to slow it down, my first instinct is say no, because I don't slow down. I got a limited amount of time. We talk about time. I feel like, man, I got limited. I don't know I don't know when my last breath is going to be. I got to go. I got to motivate people. I got to change lives. But again, it goes back to, if I don't pour into myself, I can't pour into you. And so I have to give them permission and allow them to speak to me and say, you need to slow down and stop. And trust that they're doing that for the best interest of my goals and my dreams, because they have invested in them. Who's going to be your accountability team? And last but not least, tune out the naysayers. They've always been there. You know them. I have them. You have them. They will always be there. There will always be someone who will tell you how you're not going to make it, or, oh, you're doing that again? I remember when you did it before. You didn't try. You didn't really do it. No. Tune them out. Sure, you will make mistakes. Sure, you're going to take some steps back. That doesn't mean this is the end of the story. I have, on one of my novels, I had someone write a really bad review. But the person started off with saying, I only read the first 3 chapters. Well, guess what? They never got to the good stuff, and they never saw how the book ended. That's a naysayer. They're going to quit on you, and they're going to tell you how awful you are on the first 3 chapters of your life. But ignore them. Don't let them stick around, and they're not going to get to see the middle nor the end. The success, the adventure, the good things that happen in the story of your life, in your time. I've had people that would say I never would write a book, but I did. They also said I would never be successful at motivating people and get grit going. But here we are in our 3rd year. We have had almost 3,000 people listen to our podcast. We have done live events, and we have people who will testify and be a witness to how Grit for Life has motivated them and changed their life. I look back at my life, and those who said I couldn't do it, most are no longer around. And yet guess who is? I am. And I'm killing it because I tuned them out. So tune them out. Take charge. It's time to start taking charge of your life, your responsibility, and your success. You can do it. Your response, your responsibility. If you cannot embrace that, then you'll be the boat with the weight to one side, going in circles, and the only one to blame will be you. Now, go take charge.